Okay, welcome back to our series here. So when we think about developing wealthy soil, one of the most important elements is developing a long-term tracking plan. You see, when you start thinking about really creating value in the soil structure, we don't want to miss data. We don't want to miss something that's happening in that soil profile. So when we're looking at long-term, multi-year data, we start seeing things that pop out to us as, wow, that's something that we got to look for. That's something that we need to pay attention to. That's something that we can learn from. So let's take a look at this long-term data here. Now, if you go back to this very beginning stage, the very beginning activity in this root zone, that's where we started. That's where we started this whole series, was just looking at this from the very first stair steps. But then that season ended. We continued through that season, through the winter time. We went into a spring rain process and maybe some pre-water with irrigation. And then we planted a second crop. This was a crop that didn't use a lot of water in the season, but as we come towards the end of the season, we finished this crop out. It used a substantial amount of water right before harvest. So as we started looking at these different types of crops, guess what? We see a totally different pattern. But there's some other information we're seeing here too with the long-term data. Notice at this point, we never got to the full point. That's very, very common your first year with any probe. It doesn't matter what probe you're using. When you put a probe in about the time when it's about time to raise a crop, you never really know if you're full. After we went through the spring rains and some irrigation recharge, we found the full point. That's extremely important. That full point was there. It was there the following year. That's information that is very, very critical to high yield production. You see, if we're going to be building a high yield goal, a high yield production goal, we have to know that we have the ability to develop a deep, deep root system. And when we're thinking about that deep root system, it means that we have moisture all the way through the profile every year. We can't just guess. This is simply too risky to guess on it. So if you think about the investment that the farmer made clear back here in the very beginning, and now he's reaping that harvest, if you will, reaping the harvest of his investment here, reaping the harvest of the investment here, because he's got the multiple years worth of data, he's able to know confidently every year what's going on in that profile. Now let's take a look at even further. This is now going into year 6. So in the previous slide, we looked at the data all the way up to here. This is the first half of this probe's life. And we looked at this season, and this season. Those 3 seasons are all we could see. But that's not the end of the story. See, we have another cropping season here where we pulled the profile down a little bit in irrigation. We irrigate a little bit here, we irrigate a little bit here, but all focused on drawing that moisture down. Look how much drier it is here with this crop and this crop than it was this crop. See, these crops are totally different. Now we're recharging. We have our template in for the next crop, and now we're recharging, getting ready for that next crop. We're refilling the profile with rain, pre-watering irrigation. We're getting ready for the season. We're going to look into that future with confidence. See, this is so important, my friends. This is so important. When we don't have the confidence of where we are inside the root zone every year, we're guessing on our purchases. We're hoping. We're just hoping that we get the water. We're just hoping instead of planning. See, when we have this type of long-term confidence, we can make plans with confidence. We can make decisions with confidence. We can invest in our future with confidence. Because if the data doesn't show that there's potential, the data doesn't show that we're ready, then we can make changes so we don't lose profits. When we're farming for profit, we start with a existing soil structure and we move to a wealthy soil management system. And that's what we're doing here. A wealthy soil management system. We know where we are confidently from one year to the next, one cropping cycle to the next, one planting cycle to the next, one harvest cycle to the next. We're building it with confidence we've never had before. This, my friends, is the real value of the CRM system. I look forward to helping you now move to the next phase where we look at the individual sensors. This is the big picture. This is a big picture, all the profile together. Now we're going to start breaking it down and look at the details within this system. I want to help you understand that inside these details, there's so much value. So let's take a look at that in our next video.